Welcome back to Alumni Game, the show where three Gamecocks dive into South Carolina sports, football, hoops, the NCAA, everything that comes along with it.
Where our opinions are never filtered, sometimes reasonable, and always fun.
That's right. You can check out all of those takes that we have on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on all those platforms. Settle in, y'all, and let's get started with this week's episode of Alumni
Game!
Hey, Carolina fans. Great to have you back on another episode of Alumni Game, where we talk Carolina football, sports, NCAA. We're doing it all. We are getting into, the doldrums of the off season here, and not a ton of football news coming through, not a lot of transfer news, practices happening, but not a ton of news. So we're getting into some bigger ideas here at Alumni Game, and we want to talk some position groups all time for Carolina, or at least for us, and who we really like and who we want to talk about. So this week we're talking wide receivers, since though that is a sexy position that scores a lot in the vertical game that is football nowadays. And we have each come up with our top five Carolina wide receivers who we want to talk about today. Definitely feel free to disagree with us, comment, give us your top five, let us know who we missed, what we missed, why we missed it, and let us know other position groups you want to see. This is sort of a new segment we want to do, kind of similar how we've been doing new Gamecocks of the week that are new to the squad now. We want to talk about some of the best Gamecocks that we've had, that we've seen, that we've enjoyed for all time. So like I said, this week we're getting into wide receivers, which is a lot of fun, and what where we start from there. I guess I'll throw it over to Buster because I know he's excited.
Is it top five or is it favorite? It might be favorite.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Sam. All right, Sam.
What do we
So I
got?
think I'm gonna say it is favorite, but I think by the time we get to the episode for the three of us, we can kind of agree on at least who is in the top five. Maybe not the exact order, because I think generally we all have the same five names. Maybe that fifth name is a little different on each one of our boards, and I know mine is a little different just because I'm going with who I really, really like.
There's definitely consensus top three, I think.
I
Ooh, well,
Maybe not. Maybe. Ooh,
when you
let's
say
get into
definitely, and I
Buster,
think
let's get into it. Buster, let's get into it.
all right.
Let's see.
you put me in a
I'll
weird
start.
spot as a host because I'm supposed to intro and set us up, and I feel like I have already, and now we're backtracking.
Well, your
Buster's got his
co-host,
hands up and he's smiling and he's got his hat on, so I'm gonna let
your
him talk.
co-host, color commentator here didn't leave you. He kind of threw you off.
Yeah,
threw
cut
you
him
off
out.
board
Get
a
him
little
out of
bit.
here.
Well,
Get it out of here.
I mean, the thing is like what I bring to the table is objective, reasonable, and unbiased information. Like there's nothing about this that is subjective. There's nothing about this that's opinion. This is all based on a very convoluted and rational, research-minded.
You're basically a
process.
computer. You're like a football
Yeah.
computer.
Exactly. So with that being said, my top five is based on the impact to the Gamecock football program, but their impact to my fandom, because that is a very reasonable and unbiased way of looking at things.
Yeah.
Is how it affected me as a fan of the South Carolina Gamecock
Right.
football team.
Because
So,
without you
my
as a
number one-
fan, who knows where the program
Exactly.
would be.
If it wasn't for me, then what's the point of
I
having
mean, look
a
at
football?
you.
Right.
You're looking great.
Exactly.
There's no point at all.
So I
My
think in
number
terms of
one-
a format, I think I was thinking we'd start with number one, but that feels anticlimactic. So maybe we should start at five and work our way up.
Okay.
Unless there's an objection there, since we are keeping it unbiased. I will lead off because I do think my top five is a little different than everybody else's. I'm going to go with Pharaoh Cooper at number five. And my main rationale there is I watched him play the whole time. And I think with him, while it's a little dicey to be saying that for him for wide receiver, I just feel like he could do anything when he was on the field. When we were in the red zone and he was on the field, he could catch it, he could throw it, he could run it in, he could do any of it. And I somewhat love the guys who really went so ham in college that's where they were number one, because obviously Farrow never really did it at the pro level in a way that is similar to some other guys on this list. And also know, and the other reason why I'm going first here is that's a little controversial. I only saw one or two other lists that really had Farrow up into the top five. So I'm fairly confident you guys are going to disagree with me, but I love that I got to say Farrow's name because he is one of my favorites.
I'm glad you got to say Pharaoh's name too. Remember, the big deal was American Pharaoh won the Triple Crown.
Yes,
and it was a big deal that we had Pharaoh Cooper. So, and I think there was a little connection at some point, whether it was on the social media universe or like actually in person / course, where Pharaoh and American Pharaoh actually,
got together for a pick.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because like I do pay attention to the Derby, but only like 2 days before the Derby. I feel like I don't ever watch horse racing otherwise, and then I don't really end up watching once they said that the winner from a few weeks ago was not running in the other race. Like I was like, okay, there's no Triple Crown, so what do I care? But I love that connection is made. Anytime there is a connection across sports with names or connections like that, it's always kind of special. And that was pretty cool that year when that happened.
Do you want me to do my number 5?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, unless you guys have a huge disagreement with what I said, or you have anything else you want to add about Farrow.
Farrow is right there. Like when he came in, remember we had just Connor Shaw had graduated. We were with Dylan Thompson as our starting quarterback from Boiling Springs, South Carolina. We had a very high-powered offense, and Pharaoh Cooper was one of the reasons for that. I mean, that guy, the vertical threat that he could muster up against defenses, and then not just being a vertical threat and catching a pass down the field, but he was so electric and athletic that you could rely on him to catch in space. You can catch in traffic, going across the middle, third down play. You need a guy that runs a little end-around sweep, a reverse, play quarterback on an option. Like that was our guy.
And he was always that way. I mean, he was a D-back before he moved to wide receiver,
Yeah.
So he had some hunter in him before that was a real thing. And, set some records too. And, all SEC, really, had some massive games. And look, I may have undersold him in the pros. I mean, he did play in the pros. He got drafted by the Rams. He was there for a few years, bounced around a little bit after that. Cardinals, Bengals, Panthers, but never when I say that, just never really produced at a huge level. I think something like in the NFL, 60 receptions for like 545 or something. He really did his damage in the NFL in return yards. He had almost 4,000 return yards, but he only had 2 touchdowns. So that's not that sort of doesn't match up with everything he did in college, and it kind of just feels like that's a little when he peaked was in college,
Yeah.
And I kind of like that because we are such college fans. I want to see guys going that hard that's when they peak. Not everybody has to be a Tim Tebow, but I think it's kind of fun for the college game when they are,
All right, number 5 for me. I'm going to throw this one out because it's a recent guy. Xavier Leggett out of Mullins, South Carolina.
You bring him all the way up to number 5?
So I'm putting him at number 5, and this is why. One, because like I said, this is reasonable, unbiased, and objective.
Totally.
He's country. He is as country gets. And if we need a representation of what it's like to live in South Carolina, to ride horses, to be from Mullins, South Carolina, to have an accent that no one can understand, Xavier Leggett is our role model. And I'm going with him. Also the fact that he's 6'3", 230 pounds, athletic freak, runs a sub-4, I think it was a 4.42 at 40, if I'm not mistaken. It was somewhere there. Very fast, very strong, very athletic. You can easily see that when you look at his college career. Yeah, he didn't do much the first couple of years because he was behind some receivers.
First couple years. Try the first 4 years.
Yeah, but you know what he did that last year?
Trust me, I read about this. He goes for a COVID redshirt year, gets that other year. The 5th year is when it happened. No one has much to talk about in his first 4 years.
5th year, he gets 71 receptions for almost 1,300 yards, 217 yards in a singular game. Okay, so
he's basically the opposite of what I was just talking about. He
But
did
he was
not
also
peak in
speculative
college
of-
at all. And if he did, he peaked in his 5th year that he got almost by accident because of COVID, and then parlays that into a draft status that gets him on the Carolina Panthers and is a big part of their offense right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a first round pick. Okay, runs and yes, the 40-yard dash was a 4.3, 4.39. So yeah, no, dude's an athletic freak, and we're gonna see what he can do. There's others I could put in there. Like I get it with Pharaoh, but
He already has in his NFL career what he did in the first 4 years at Carolina. He has 49 receptions and almost 500 yards and 4 touchdowns. In his first 4 years at South Carolina, he played in 41 games, had 42 receptions for 423 yards and 5 touchdowns. So he
Yeah,
had
but this
one
is
more
not about
touchdown
the
in his
stats.
first 4 years than he does in his first
yeah,
year.
but it's not about the stats. It's about what they do for the fans. Remember what I told you? That's the criteria of favorite receivers in our top 5.
Yeah, yeah,
He's a
yeah.
fan
That's
favorite.
true. That's true.
That's
That's true.
objectively
I didn't
correct.
think you'd bump him up that far. Every other list I had for an all-time list for Carolina had him rocking like 9 or 10, or some people left him off.
He was 7 or 8 until he started talking, and then he moved up to number 5.
Yeah, yeah. Every time
Shout
he
out
starts
to all my
talking,
Southern people. I mean, you guys don't know. Y'all are from the North. Like y'all don't understand what it's like to represent the South.
yeah, no, he represents. I mean, you look up country in the dictionary, and he was already there. It doesn't even say country anymore. It says Xavier Leggett. Yeah, 100%. Well, that's a
Sam,
good
what
one.
do you
That's a
got?
good counter to my Pharaoh. I like that.
Yeah.
Who you got at number 5, Sam?
I'm going with someone I like to call Deebo Samuel. Mainly
Right, and you're
because
gonna cue your own clip here.
I
That's
remember
great.
him starting the season. What was that? We were sitting at the Mason jar there, Mike, and he started off the season with this gem of a kick return way back when they started against NC State. I think he returned a few that year. But look, Deebo, man, he was a big guy, but you know what else he did? He's running it right now, right, with the 49ers. He just got traded to the Commanders. Congrats to him. I think he'll do some wonders for them.
Yeah, I think he will do well.
Big body, hard to take down. He was a deep threat because he was such a big body. He just pushed guys out of the way. Loved Deebo. Loved him on some really, really terrible Will Muschamp teams right there. But yeah, really, I'm gonna go with Deebo Samuel as my number 5.
Yeah, solid.
And I love the
Solid.
name Deebo. It makes me think of Friday.
Yeah.
A lot closer to some of the all-time lists I saw. A lot of people rocking him at like 6 or 7. A really fun pick because from Spartanburg County in Inman, South Carolina. He's hometown as well. He was a big part of those years and a big reason that we were watching. And and I've watched a lot more Niners games than I would have because of him. Obviously some injuries here and there, especially in college, and has shown a little in the pros. I do agree with you. I think a change of scenery for him to Washington is good. I think they were using him in a weird way that they won't need to there. And I think although Brock Purdy is good, that Niner team is a little handicapped now with the contract they're giving Brock, and I don't think they can win with a QB with that kind of contract. And then you look at Daniels for Washington. Daniels is incredible, probably better than Brock. We'll find out. And getting paid much, much, much less, and they have other weapons. The big worry in Washington is that Terry McLaurin is going to be the odd man out, and I think that just says that's a huge testament to what Deebo can do when he's 100% on his game and motivated. And I think he should be motivated now too.
Let's go number
Mike,
4,
who do you have
baby.
at number 4?
Number 4. So number 4, I have your boy Kenny McKinley.
Yes.
I thought about this and I was like, I can't drop Kenny out because that would mean bringing Edwards, or who we haven't mentioned yet, Brian Edwards, or Deebo Samuel in, which is why I'm really glad that Sam did it and not me. I did value Pharaoh just a little bit more, obviously, because he brought a lot of other things in. And, I feel like he didn't get his due in the pros. Deebo's getting his due in the pros. But yeah, Kenny McKinley for a lot of reasons, but a lot of reasons that you probably have. So I'll go with you there. By chance, did you also have Kenny at number 4?
So I had Kenny at number 3, but I'm going to move him to number 4 because I want this to match up. And the biggest reason why is
that's fair.
me,
that's unbiased. That's reasonable.
So if we're looking at fan favorite or fandom, rankings, he's in top 3. Like, just because when when South Carolina was starting to turn the corner with Steve Spurrier and realized that we can actually get talent, play with talent, win with talent, and win with talent in the SEC, Kenny was one of those guys. You know, he was a quarterback out of South Cobb High School in Mableton, comes over to the Gamecocks, ends up switching over to receiver, and alongside someone that may or may not be on this list, Sidney Rice, with was it Blake Mitchell at the time? Blake the Snake Mitchell was our quarterback those first couple years with Spurrier. They showed that we can bring in good talent and win great looking games at South Carolina. And I mean, in 2007, he led the SEC in receptions. He was number 1 at USC, yards per game, total yards, touchdowns. 2007 against Tennessee, 14 catches, 151 yards. That is
all
a
SEC that year
too. Very, very good Tennessee team. And then the idea is that I put him in there because he was a fan favorite in the sense of you never saw him angry. You never saw him pitch a tantrum on the sideline. He had a great smile, easygoing. Spurrier even said it was one of his favorite players of all time. So,
and it almost feels like, and we'll get to him in a little bit, but just playing behind Sidney Rice to achieve what he did behind a talent like Sidney, and to basically be Scottie Pippen to maybe his Michael Jordan, just to throw out something, just that's not what it is, but just to frame it for people who maybe didn't see that. That's really impressive to me. To be a second and be like, I'm the second here and that's fine. I'm going to be the best effing second that there's ever been.
Yeah.
I like something about that. There's a Gamecock mentality to that.
Yes.
That you just need a chance. You just need a shot. He got a shot, And I think for us now, talking about it now, 14 years after he's been gone, there's a lore there too, right? I mean, he had problems. He had injuries, and in fact, ends up going out of his own accord, which is really, really sad. But there was a precedent there too. His roommate did the same thing.
O.J. Murdoch, yeah.
And there is a culture of that sometimes in sports. I forget who it was. There's another player recently who had some mental issues where it was basically like, and it's a diagnosed condition where like you think by not doing well, you actually think you're like offending God, and you like pray and all this other stuff. And like, I get how you could mess with your own head like that. And to not see that or know that as fans and hear about that later is really sad, but it's part of the game sometimes.
Yep.
The mental game is just as important as the physical. And it really, really sad to have lost him, but I think part of what we're wanting to do here, and I think part of the reason he is on our list where it is that's part of the mythos that goes with him,
Right. Yep.
And that's part of a reason to put him up a list, because he did it, and he's not around anymore to talk about him. We can't talk about his pro days because he only had a few of those. I think he only played like 8 games in the pros, or no, for Denver.
It was 9.
8 games as a kick returner.
8 games, yeah. I mean, the thing is he is the embodiment of when we want to talk about the perfect team player, the perfect guy, in this age of NIL where seemingly there's no loyalty outside of the dollar bill. He's the type of guy that we reference as far as loyalty to the team, to the program, and not just the program. And when I say program, I mean, he was loyal to the fans and to the city and the state. It was one of those where if he was in the NIL era, he would be the type of guy that would say, I couldn't care less how much I'm getting paid. I'm playing for the University of South Carolina Gamecocks. It was just, you got that feeling for him. And that's why, like you said,
and even then a guy from Georgia too.
Yeah. So that's why I have him up there. Just he's very special to Gamecock fans, not for what he did on the field, but just as much as of who he represented as he represented himself off the field.
Love, if I could just if there was like a Purple Heart list or a most loved, he's number 1. But in terms of wide receivers, he's here for a reason. But I think we love him even more for that. Who you got it for, Sam?
Yeah, same guy, Ken McKinley, because I had a feeling that we had our top 3 all solid. And then when Buster said No, I'll switch it from three to. He said, I don't know yet. I figured he had Kenny McKinley top two or three.
Yeah,
I
sure.
like Kenny McKinley mainly because of what Buster said. Like Coach Spurrier, one of his first wide receivers here at South Carolina, certainly a lot more. But we're gonna move forward because we don't have enough time. But let's
Yeah.
move forward to number three, guys. My number three is Sidney Rice,
Oh,
absolute beast
Yeah.
at the University of
And a
South
great segue
Carolina.
because he played with Kenny.
He did play
yeah,
with Kenny. But he was like a big body, if you remember correctly, for
yeah.
some of those like Blake Mitchell right there when he was quarterback. Huge body that he was able to do here in this game. This was coming out party
Oh, this
against
looks good.
Tennessee. Had
Yeah,
a
another checkered.
couple
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
touchdowns. Went on to play with Brett Favre at Minnesota.
Bah!
Fun fact about Sidney Rice though, he used to play basketball up at the Blatt, and I played a few games against him. Let me tell you something. Guy can shoot some triples, man. He can shoot some threes. Tallest guy on the court the entire time. Tallest guy on the
Mhm.
court for pickup games. And he's just sitting back there taking three-pointers and nailing them from the corner. Absolute
Yeah.
great guy. Years later, when South Carolina would win in 2017 in New York in the Sweet 16 against Baylor, I had an opportunity to see Sidney Rice again. Got a nice picture with him when we were over at wasn't the Mason Jar, some other. It was Justin Timberlake's
Right to
barbecue
Sam if you want to
place.
see
Yeah.
that picture. He'll get you that
Well,
picture.
really good times. Great guy. I was hoping his NFL career would be a little bit better, but he had a couple good seasons. Love
Yeah, a
Sidney
couple good
Rice.
seasons.
Love Sidney
Yeah.
Rice.
Yeah, from
Man.
Gaffney, South Carolina, so another
Yeah.
hometown. And he was hitting it from the get, right? He was all state in high school in multiple sports, winning all kinds of state titles. Heavily recruited. Specifically in his bio, talked about Rice, which I thought that was that heavily recruited. We've talked about some other guys that were not. We didn't really mention their recruiting or whatever. Commits to the Gamecocks. Really kind of gets going. His redshirt freshman year, right? And really stockpiled stuff up. I mean, almost 3,600 yards, 30 touchdowns. Yeah, and I think we left it off the end. Does end up going to the pros for the Vikings and then with the Seahawks for a little while too.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, a lot of reasons to love Sydney. And even with his short career, he breaks the record of another guy we're probably going to mention in a minute. So maybe I don't want to say his name yet, but does hold some records there, which is great. So we love Sydney a lot. So I also had Sydney at number three, and I'm guessing Buster, you did the same.
Yeah, no. Initially, I had Deebo. You're number five. I had Deebo there just because of what he was doing in the NFL, and especially like you said that last year here at Carolina, where he ran back at UNC, or no, NC State, and then he ran another kickoff return against Mizzou later that season. Very dynamic in the run game as well as in the passing game. But as far as like I said, the impact to our fandom, Sydney, from Gaffney, like you said. Gaffney is a big time football program here in South Carolina. If you talk about high school football history in South Carolina, that's Gaffney is where it's at. So Sydney definitely belongs at the number three spot.
Sounds like we got to recruit more out of Gaffney.
Yes.
Gaffney, man, low key hotspot over there. Low key
Yeah.
hotspot. Mike, take us to our number two, man.
Yeah, so
Because
this
this
is
might
where
be
maybe
we
we're
might
gonna
be
start differing a
yep.
little bit, and I think we'll see where this goes because obviously we only got two and one left. I transpose things here from what I think Buster has, but I think I did it for a good reason. I do have Sterling Sharpe at number two. I fully realize that on an all-time football level, Sterling Sharpe probably should be number one. He's in the Football Hall of Fame now, and he's one of our only, from South Carolina that is in the National Football Hall of Fame, not just the Collegiate Hall of Fame. And the quote I read about Sharpe, just to get this one out because I love this quote, is a man among boys when he played. If you saw him play in person, it just felt like he was going out there and everybody else was like a grade less. But that's not to say he is not a number one. Just for me, I think it's obvious who I'm gonna have at number one, and we'll talk about him in a minute. And I'm immediately gonna throw this over to Buster because Sterling Sharpe is his baby for a bunch of different reasons.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No.
I wanted to say this is no reflection that I think Sterling Sharpe is that much less than Alshon. I just think it's a toss-up between the two in terms of what they both achieved.
Sorry, we
Yeah,
only got
no,
115 subscribers. You're not offending anyone.
Yeah, they're so offended.
Here's the thing, like, having Alshon and Sterling at 1 and 2, and again, I had Alshon at number 2, and Sterling's my number 1. The reason that Sterling's number 1 is, yes, we could talk about the Hall of Fame accolades. Deion Sanders, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, said that he was one of the toughest guys he ever had to cover.
That's pretty
He
cool.
deserved to be in the Hall of Fame. The fact that his brother Shannon Sharpe at his Hall of Fame speech basically said, "I'm the first to be in the Hall of Fame in my family, but I'm the second best athlete in my family."
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Speaks volumes. But more so, I always put Sterling as number 1 because my fandom started because of Sterling. I was young enough where I knew about Gamecock football, but didn't really have a complete grasp as a kid.
Yeah.
And Sterling helped me cement my fandom in Gamecock football, as well as my fandom in the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, which I think says a lot to transcend that you picked 2 teams based off of one guy, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, not fully. You might have been a Carolina fan anyway, but would you have been a Packer fan? Maybe not. Maybe.
Yeah, no. I was a Bears fan because I was a huge 86 Bears Super Bowl team.
Oh, I hate to hear that.
But and my dad he would fly up to Chicago. My brother and I became big Chicago fans just because of the lure.
Doing the Super Bowl shuffle and stuff.
There was something cool about the city of Chicago. But then Sterling goes to Green Bay, and then the whole legends of Green Bay and all the different things that came along with it. It basically, Sterling is the catalyst for everything football that I am. So that's why he's my number 1.
Yeah, no, and that's a good place to leave it. And I think that says a lot, And obviously we've kind of unveiled what it is here. Basically each of us have either Sterling Sharpe or Alshon Jeffery at number 1. For me, for Alshon at number 1, it's that Alabama game. I was there for that game. We came back for that game. First game I ever brought my wife to. First college game she'd really ever been to in person in earnest. She's the good luck charm. I don't even really remember. I remember being almost catatonic by the end of that game, not knowing what had happened. But to have Alshon do what he did for us, and then to also do it in one of the biggest games that we've ever had, one of the biggest wins that we've ever had, and to show up and just rock it. And just such a big body, just able to do so much in the red zone. You're seeing it with the highlights here. These are great highlights. This was a great game.
I love it.
That is a prayer, right? That looks like a prayer when he lets go of it. And you just knew, look at all those white shirts. And he finds a way to find it, knows it, pushes the ball in the end zone, stays in bounds. I mean, he could do no wrong when he was at Carolina. He just did so much. And I think that's part of it. Having, like you said, having not enjoyed seeing Sterling in person and having just gotten rocked by how much Alshon could do was what did it for me to put Alshon at number 1.
You know what's crazy is all of these receivers in our top 5 are either from South Carolina or from Georgia.
I know.
In your backyard, people. That's where you get your players.
Hey, that's a good place to leave it too. This is a great list. Feel free to.
My favorite Alshon Jeffery. My favorite Alshon Jeffery story though is when Lane Kiffin said that when Alshon Jeffery said he was going to South Carolina. Lane Kiffin. Well, I hope you're going to be happy pumping gas for the rest of your life. Yeah, Alshon's real happy.
He's pumping gas in his very fancy car with his millions of dollars and a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, no, he's good. He's good.
Yeah.
But please feel free to let us know. You got another name on this list, or you disagree, let us know. Let us know what other position groups you want to see. Check out our young wide receiver episode for the wide receivers coming up. And we will be back at you with more position groups coming up soon on more episodes of Alumni
Game.
Cox.
Got a high point. Got to go up and get the ball.
Look there.